It's a huge slate tonight in the NBA, 11 games, and you have come to the right place. This is DKTV's Pre-Lock Live. I'm your host, Adam Kaufman. Over the next hour, we're going to hit on the major storylines for tonight's action, run down the significant injuries and absences, and most importantly, help you build your lineups before lock at 7 Eastern. Again, just an hour away, so come on, start to pelt us with questions. If you have any, leave them on Twitter with the hashtag DKTV or in the comments section of your video platform. I'll get them to our experts, our analysts, everybody lining up to help you out. Let's take a look at the slate here. There are some lousy games, obviously. You can see like that first one between the Knicks and Magic, but also some great ones. Cavs and Celtics, Raptors and Wizards, all four of those teams with aspirations to one day win the East. Pacers at the Spurs, Rockets will visit the Clippers. Those last three must have their eyes wide open now that Kevin Durant's season might very well be over in Golden State. We'll dive into that Durant injury and how the Warriors hope to replace him and a whole lot more later on, but let's first welcome in our fantasy experts, Pierce Dietrich and Jeff Ulrich. How you guys doing?
Doing all right. Why do you hate the Magic and the Knicks? That's an exciting DFS game.
Again, good DFS game, crappy basketball fan game. You see my point here?
I don't know. I'm sure the Knicks fans will love it.
Do the Knicks fans love anything these days?
I don't know. Spike Lee will be there probably. Well, not in Orlando, but he'll be there in heart.
Maybe Charles Oakley will go to this one, though. I don't think he's been banned from the Orlando arena, so he's all right.
Yeah, right.
All right, well, we'll have more from Jeff coming up in a little bit when he decides to open his mouth. More from both of these guys in a few minutes when we dive into our player spotlights. But we've got another member of our team. Alex Jankowski is in the DK Live newsroom. Alex, how you doing, man?
Doing quite well. How about yourself there, Adam?
Well, we're talking hoops on a, Wednesday night? I couldn't be better. Let's start with the Durant knee injury, though, a guy who could be better. Big blow for the Dubs, obviously for KD. So what's the latest?
Well, it's interesting. Actually, probably almost a positive news today, given that Golden State fans went to bed last night with that report from the Vertical that said he might be out for months, plural. We find out today that, it might only just be 1 month that he's out. He has just a bone bruise and a sprained MCL in that knee that he hurt last night. He will be reevaluated in 4 weeks. In advance of the Thursday's game with the Bulls, there's going to be a lot of talk now about who benefits the most, who might be starting there. We had Warriors beat writer Anthony Slater on DK Live earlier today, and he said he expects Patrick McCaw to start in KD's absence. But obviously, you're also looking at Steph, Clay, Draymond to kind of pick up the slack that in that absence of Kevin Durant. And it actually wasn't the only long-term injury news that we got today. Obviously, Sixers center Joel Embiid, who the writing was kind of on the wall with this, given that he had been ruled out indefinitely with that knee injury. He is now officially ruled out for the season with what turned out to be a torn meniscus.
Yeah, that obviously sucks for Philly, and we'll talk a little bit more about that later, too. And as far as Kevin Durant goes, I would caution people to get too excited about the whole months versus month thing. I mean, let's be clear, and Alex said it. He's going to be reevaluated in a month. Doesn't mean he's going to be back in a month. He's going to be reevaluated in a month, which to me also does not paint a rosy picture. But Pelicans are going to be shorthanded tonight because DeMarcus Cousins can't keep his yap shut. It's kind of a miracle the guy didn't get himself in trouble at Mardi Gras cruising around Nolans with women's undies on his head. But what's going on there, Alex?
Yeah, well, maybe off the court it has been the party that some expected, but on the court definitely hasn't been as festive as a lot expected when Cousins went to New Orleans to pair up with Anthony Davis. The team is 0-3, winless since he's joined the team, and that whole promise that he made to temper his attitude hasn't exactly come to fruition. As you mentioned, his 18th technical last game resulted in a 1-game suspension, which he will serve tonight. Now, obviously, that means a major boost for Anthony Davis, who will be back to kind of the usage we had saw earlier in the year. But we're also really looking hard at Drew Holiday, the point guard, who is really kind of coming into his own in that second fiddle role behind Davis. He was an 8K type player back then, averaging 46 DK points in the 11 games before the trade. That's according to the Levitan Leverage article that's on the DK playbook right now. But you can have that kind of production tonight at $6,900. And it's also worth noting he is shooting guard eligible as well as point guard. So kind of the same talk we had on Monday with James Harden, you can now apply to Drew Holiday.
I love Alex. A walking commercial for the playbook, for DK Live, all of it. He's a company man. Hey, listen, no matter how many bad things that Pierce wants to say about the Knicks, or good things, I guess, in support of Spike Lee, that is a team that is both bad and hurt. So who's out tonight in Orlando?
Yeah, it's kind of ships passing in the night in the front court for the Knicks. With they welcome back Kristaps Porzingis from that ankle injury that had caused him to miss a few, and now they wave goodbye to Guillermo Hernan-Gomez, who also has an ankle injury and will be out tonight. Joakim Noah, as we know, is already out for the season, so that really just leaves Kyle O'Quinn at 5,200 at center. Now, Kristaps Porzingis will also likely be playing some center minutes. He's at 6,400 tonight. So both guys, you're kind of looking in that value range, especially going up against the Magic, who, don't have Serge Ibaka anymore.
Alex, all right, thanks a lot, man. We'll chat with you again shortly. Plenty more to dive into with you. And, of course, whatever updates come our way over the course of the next, 55 minutes, 53 minutes before lineups lock, injuries, lineup changes, minutes restrictions, all that good stuff. Alex is going to be the first one to bring them to you. And keep an eye on that ticker up top, too, because the injury will be coming your way, or injury updates will be coming your way there as well. But time to bring back Pierce and Jeff. Our first spotlight is coming your way. Guys, you ready for that?
Yeah.
Sure.
There's the enthusiasm we've come to find. Okay, let's do building blocks. That is our first one. Okay, here's the deal with building blocks. If you happen to be new to the show, it's really very simple. You see these names behind me: Greek Freak, Davis, Wall, DeRozan, Griffin. Obviously, all studs, all high price, minimum 9,100 and jetting all the way up. And there are other guys that are even higher priced too. But our crack team in the DK Live newsroom really dissected this group to let you know you should be looking at these guys as far as picking one of those to start your lineup as a building block. You can see that thumbs up. That's a new icon next to John Wall there. That means good matchup for him. Of course, Blake Griffin has been on fire. But start with the Greek Freak in Milwaukee. 10,500, likely an up-tempo game at home against a Nuggets squad that has did play last night. Roster flexibility with point guard and small forward eligible, which is huge. You have the versatility there for Giannis Antetokounmpo. I always just like to at least attempt to say it, and every once in a while I'll nail it, like right there. I'm proud of myself. John Wall, 10,200, a guy that, like I said, good matchup. He's averaging 36 minutes. He's going to get plenty of run. DK point average is right around 49. DeRozan, 9,300, with Kyle Lowry out, as he is for the rest of the regular season anyhow. 37 points, 8 assists, about 52 DK fantasy points against the Knicks on Monday. Took nearly a third of Toronto's field goal attempts versus New York. 25 out of 78 for the team. Blake Griffin, 9,100. Griffin obviously enjoys having CP3 back with him. In 2 games since Chris Paul returned to the court, Griffin about 49 DK fantasy points, and then 70 in that next game. Very fast-paced game. The guy that we're spotlighting, though, who I haven't mentioned yet, is Anthony Davis. DeMarcus Cousins, of course, suspended for tonight as highlighted, so could be vintage AD. He's gone 2 of the past 3 without reaching double-digit boards, but again, Cousins in the lineup. So should be a lock for double digits with Boogie out tonight. That's how I see it. Want to know about you guys. Pierce, Jeff, is that how you read it? I mean, of the guys that I just highlighted, is Davis the one that you're really sticking to tonight, Pierce?
Well, it's a bit of a running joke here. When I like Anthony Davis, bad things happen. But I love Anthony Davis. You don't have Boogie there. And you really, offensively, it's just him and Drew. And they're probably going to run pick and roll constantly. And Andre Drummond, not the best at stopping the pick and roll. He may not get the rebounds, as you mentioned. I think he will, though, with Boogie out. But definitely he's going to score the points. Detroit's on a back-to-back. I believe they played in overtime last night. It should be all about Anthony Davis tonight.
Jeff, you on that same page?
I'm not actually. I'm going to throw some cold water here. I know everyone around the NBA and DFS tonight likes Anthony Davis, and I get that the usage is going to be insane without Boogie Cousins. But you look at the slate and you look at some of these other building blocks. There's a lot of cheaper guys. Well, you don't have to worry about getting injured either. So Blake Griffin, 9,100 against the Rockets. Are you kidding me? Like, start your lineup with Blake Griffin and Nikolai Jokic, who's 8,800, or Hassan Whiteside.
Wait.
I'd much rather start with a couple cheaper guys than go with Anthony Davis, I think. I don't think Anthony Davis is a bad play. I just don't think that he's a must play, I guess, is what I'm trying to say.
Are you going to tell me we don't need to worry about Blake Griffin getting hurt, but we do have to worry about Anthony Davis?
Okay, maybe I stretched it a little bit, but you get my point. You know, Anthony Davis has a bad history of getting injured when he's in spots like this, so it wouldn't surprise me if he did. But, you know, long term, looking at this slate, I think that you don't necessarily have to roster Anthony Davis tonight. There's so many other players who are cheaper, easier to fit in your lineup and have almost or close to as much upside.
If we look at Anthony Davis's history, we'll also see earlier this year when he was basically the only guy on his team that could score, he scored 100 fantasy points, and he could very likely have another one of those nights tonight.
But as Pierce did remind us, when he likes Anthony Davis, it tends to go the other way. Just something to bear in mind if you're superstitious or
That's not scientific.
Mildly scientific. All right, we're going to go to our next spotlight in just a moment. First, viewer questions. Again, if you have any, leave them with the hashtag DKTV on Twitter, and you can also hit us up in the comments section of your video platform as you watch this. Let's get a look at the first viewer question here. It comes from Zach Vaughn on Twitter. Covington versus Saric, and thoughts on Saric in general tonight. Jeff, lead us off on this one.
I don't really love the 76ers tonight. They're going up against the Heat. The Heat slow things down a little bit. The projected point total isn't big. If I was going to pick between those two, I'd definitely go with Dario Saric. Covington's slowing down a little bit. You know, he's been relying on steals and things like that, it looks like. So I would lean Saric there. Don't really love the matchup, though, for Philly.
Pierce?
I don't like the price, and just like Jeff said, it's a slower game, and Miami plays really good defense. Miami is really hot. They could easily get blown out of this game or just not have the greatest numbers. You got 11 games to choose from. I'm not going to go back to them. I'm going to wait for a better matchup. I'm not giving up on them. I know we had to stay away from them during the Golden State game as well. Just give it a couple games, and we can go back to the well soon.
Yeah, that's a great point, too. Like, we don't need to get off Dario Saric. He's going to be a great play the rest of the year. I just think that, just like Pierce said, it's not a great matchup, and I think there is a good chance of blow.
All right, C.J. Watson ruled out tonight from the Magic, if you're not seeing it there in the ticker above my head, as it is, right around here. All right, that's our first one. Let's get another viewer question. My apologies. He's coming from YouTube, not Twitter. We will get some from Twitter, though, I promise you that. From Ty Ute. Drew and Brow in cash games, same line. Pierce.
It is hard to take the Brow in cash games. I wouldn't take this in a cash game when you have so many choices tonight. I love it in GPPs. I think Drew, and there's going to be a lot of combo plays where you got Drew and Anthony Davis or Chris Paul and DeAndre Jordan. A lot of those are out there. I wouldn't do it in cash because there's so many options, and like we mentioned, the Brow can get injured.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I already kind of spoke about Anthony Davis. I don't think – look, we can't predict injuries. So, yeah, Anthony Davis has a bad history of injuries, but it shouldn't scare you off playing him this week. I just think that roster construction-wise, you don't necessarily have to play Anthony Davis. I think it's fine cash game play, but I do think that you can go maybe a little bit more balanced tonight with guys under 10K. Drew Holiday, for sure, just plug and play.
All right, keep sending your questions our way. We'll be with you about 45 more minutes until the first game of the slate. There is just the one 7 o'clock Eastern game. Then they get progressively a little bit later, obviously, as the night rolls along. But huge slate, 11 games. We're here to break them all down, take your questions. Let's go to our next spotlight, though. We've got building blocks in the rearview mirror. It is time for value. Value, I mean, just as you would expect. It's really pretty basic. Lower price guys, as you can see, O'Quinn, Lawson, Kufis, Dellavedova, and Prince. Who do you really like at a bargain basement rate, if you will? Who can help your team maybe get you 6, 7 times value, whatever it may be? Kyle O'Quinn's the guy we're going to feature. We'll talk about him in just a moment. Before that, though, Ty Lawson, 4,200, started 2 of the last 3 games. His top 25 DK fantasy points in both. Nets suck on defense. Only harm could be the return of Aaron Aflalo, which, as of right now, is probable. Kostas Kufis, a name I love saying, 3,900 for the Kings. Willie Cauley-Stein's price has surged. Kufis remains at that 3,900. He's averaged about 22 minutes per game since DeMarcus Cousins was traded away to New Orleans. Gets very nearly a DK fantasy point per minute, .884. Nets 27th in defensive efficiency, so obviously a good matchup for him. Dellavedova, my man out of Australia, 3,900 as well, has not been spectacular, has seen a lot of time on the floor, and the Nuggets second worst in the league against point guards. It's all about minutes. Best ability, availability. Taurean Prince, 3,400. Who? Well, the Baylor rookie was drafted by Utah, traded to Atlanta. He's played well of late. 20 fantasy points in 27 minutes last week, 33 in 30 minutes on Monday. But let's circle back to the man we're keeping a close eye on, and that is Kyle O'Quinn of the Knicks. 5,200, so upper echelon of this group. O'Quinn about 36 DK fantasy points, 24 and a half his last 2 games, while helping to cover for injured Kristaps Porzingis. Porzingis is back, but you had Willie Hernan-Gomez and Joakim Noah both out, as mentioned before by Alex. So, taking a look at this one, guys, again, it's a good group, Jeff, but how do you feel about O'Quinn, a guy that I thought was going to be moved at the trade deadline, but obviously stays in New York?
Yeah, I mean, Kyle O'Quinn is a guy who's been really, really productive for fantasy when he sees the floor. He's averaging over a fantasy point per minute on the year, and he's probably going to get at least 25 minutes tonight because the Knicks are so beat up and they have a short bench, basically. So the only worry with O'Quinn is foul trouble and high ownership, I guess, in GPPs. I think he's actually kind of an interesting fade because there's so many other good centers out there. This is kind of a strategy point, though. Doesn't mean he's a bad play. He's definitely a good play at 5,200. He'll be popular, great cash game play, I think. Very, very productive when he gets the minutes. So definitely looking at O'Quinn as definitely probably the best value on the slate.
Pierce, you looking too?
No, I can't do it. Every time people want to play Kyle O'Quinn, he's the guy you've got to play. He just doesn't do anything. And it's not a clear – I mean, it's a revenge game for him going against Orlando, so maybe he's going to be fired up. But you don't know what Hornacek's going to do out there. You can see Kristaps playing a bunch at center. There's no guarantee he's going to get a lot of minutes. They can move Carmelo over to power forward, and then you can just have a bad game. So I don't think you have to do it. And like Jeff mentioned, there are a lot, and I mean a lot, of great centers all over in the price range. And I think I'll just try to avoid this one, especially if everybody is on board with Kyle O'Quinn.
Well, it's something to keep in mind, too, just a general rule of hoops DFS. When we've spoken with Adam Levitan, who will join us a little bit later on in the program, asked him about just strategy and lineup building. One of the things he has said time and time again is that he finds, especially with DraftKings for whatever reason, centers typically are underpriced, sometimes by $800, $1,000. You can get a lot of value at the center position in particular. You don't need to pay up there as you might have to for, let's say, a point guard. All right. A couple of YouTube questions already. Let's take one from Twitter. You can leave them there with the hashtag DKTV. This one from Ace Masters 21. Your thoughts on Korver against the Celtics tonight and Ariza against the Clippers? Pierce, start us off.
I'm not going to go near Ariza. We've seen – I mean, he'll get a couple points, and they spread the ball out in Houston. I think it's dangerous trying to pinpoint who in Houston's going to score, and I think Ariza would probably one of my least favorite picks on that team. Korver, we got a lot of points coming out of this Boston and Cleveland game, and if he starts hitting, he's been playing pretty well when he's healthy, but I don't think you need to go with that option either. I don't really like either two of those guys.
Jeff, same story?
Yeah, pretty much. I think, Courtney Lee's 4,600. He's going to play more minutes than Kyle Korver, I think. He's coming off a really good game. I think I'd much rather go with him than Kyle Korver if you're looking for a guy to swerve to at that price. I definitely pretty much on the same page as Pierce.
All right, keep those questions coming. Again, the hashtag DKTV on Twitter. You can leave them right there on YouTube in the comments section as well. We enjoy hearing from you guys. Keeps us busy as we, wait for the lineup lock, obviously. But we also like to play games, not just spotlights. Chase Fade. We're doing a few of these, 4 of them by the end of the show, and this is the first round. We'll do a couple of these guys. Let's do our first round of Chase Fade here. A couple of questions for the guys. The way this works, they'll each have 15 seconds to essentially impress me. Doesn't mean I have to agree with what they're saying, but who has the better argument? That is what's most important if they want to win the round. And we've been doing this, I think last time, if I remember correctly, guys, you split, right? You each had 3 correct when we did 6?
Well, yeah, that normally happens when you give us an even amount of questions every time.
Well, except when you both screw up and pick the same side and push like a couple of idiots.
Oh,
all right, let's do the first one. Again, chasing, fading. That's the objective here. All right, Drew Holiday is a must-play. Nice picture there, Drew. Drew Holiday is a must-play with Boogie Cousins out tonight. Jeff, start us off.
I'm going to fade this. I mean, again, it comes down to who else is available. We have 11-game slate. I think there's still a lot of value at point guard. I mean, you can definitely go low. You can go high tonight. So Darren Collison is less expensive. That's one play right off the bat. So really good play, yes. A must play, no.
Pierce?
Oh, I'm going to chase this. He is incredibly underpriced. You've got two guys on the offense that can score, him and Anthony Davis, and one of them might get injured. He's also got a really good matchup against Detroit playing on a back-to-back, and I think Reggie Jackson is ranked as probably one of the worst defensive point guards in basketball. I'm all over Drew. You're going to get a good return of value on this guy.
Would you quit wishing injuries upon Anthony Davis? Shameless.
Maybe if I say it enough, it won't happen. That's kind of the way I'm going here.
All right, I'm going to go with Pierce on that one because you just look at what Drew Holiday has been doing lately, and when I say lately, I mean pre-DeMarcus Cousins trades. In the 11 games before Boogie got to New Orleans, he was averaging about, I think, 47 DK fantasy points per game, playing an enhanced role, enhanced minutes, and also the price has dropped significantly, as these guys noted. $8,800 at his peak, down to $6,900 tonight. So I think that's a guy you got to play. So 1-0 Pierce as we stand right now. Our second chase fade here is James Harden is appropriately priced tonight at $11,700. First time he has been that low since January 21st. You got to go back, 6 weeks, 5 weeks, whatever it's been. Pierce, you go first.
I'll chase, and because I feel so confident, I just want to talk about Drew Holiday. Tyreke Evans was on that team as well, eating up usage. He's not going to be there. Now, going back to James Harden, it's James Harden. Last against Indiana, he had an okay game, and that was 56 points. I have no problem spending up for him. I know it's CP3, but he's worth the price.
Jeff?
I'm going to fade it, but I'm a little bit shaken by Pierce's confidence here. I did some hashtag math, though. And, James Harden over his last 4 games only averaged about 47 fantasy points. He's hit 5 times value. He needs like 55 tonight, I think. So I think he is actually not quite appropriately priced. He's actually overpriced still. He needs to come down a little bit. Lou Williams cutting into that production.
Well, and as you can see on the board here right behind me, 13th defensive rating on the other side. So, look, we're even at 1. I'm going with Jeff simply in large part, if I'm being honest, because Pierce got overly cocky about James Harden there, and it wasn't in the spirit of the game. I didn't like it. I didn't care. I
don't think you have to take him, but I think his price is right. If he was any cheaper, then it would be a gimme pick.
A gimme pick? Oh.
If he was below 11,000,
yeah, okay.
Pass up on him.
That's 700. I mean, yeah. If he was below 11,000, yeah. Yeah, fair enough.
All right, 1-1 is where we stand. We'll do a couple more of those a little bit later on in the show. But let's take another question here from YouTube, from the audience. We thank you guys for watching, for paying attention, of course, and for educating yourselves. Really, where it's people helping people, as Vince Vaughn might say. Dean B, Dante Cunningham for $3,000. On great call, by the way, on fading Corey Joseph on the 27th. Getting Zaza certainly paid off for me. Thank you. All right, so good. Good there. What do you think, guys? Start us off. How about Pierce?
Well, it's risky. You can look back and see what Dante did before Boogie showed up, and he had a couple decent games in the starting lineup. The problem is he's going to be out there with Anthony Davis and Drew Holiday, so he's not going to be the guy getting the ball. You might even look to Montejunas, who's going to come in probably off the bench, and he's going to be in the lineup when Anthony Davis isn't out there. But at $3,000, it's hard to pass up on him. I'd rather ride this crazy pick than Kyle Quinn tonight.
Jeff?
Yeah, Pierce really not on Kyle Quinn. Anyways, Dante Cunningham. Look, I like looking for stone minimum guys. I'm not sure if he's the play. It's risky for sure, but I mean, if you're looking for stone minimum guys, got to fill out. He's at least there's no more guards. They've cleared out all the guards, so it's not that bad an idea. Obviously, Boogie Cousins out. You want another mid-price punt play to consider? Lavoy Allen has been really productive. He's still getting like over 20 minutes, so that might be another way to go. But no real mid-price guys like stone minimum guys that are sticking out. So yeah, it's GPP only. I wouldn't overexpose myself to Dante Cunningham, but yeah, it's interesting.
Pierce, who are the guys, before we move on to our next question, that you also like in terms of, basement, $3,000, right there at, hoping to find something there?
Well, maybe not 3,000. Ben McLemore is a possibility. I know we've got all those issues with the guards in Sacramento. We don't always get the minutes. I think McLemore is pretty safe to get minutes. Nene has been playing decent minutes. He's going to be in a fast-tempo game. He should get some minutes. Jeff Green, I don't know what the news is, if it's come out on Aaron Gordon yet, but he could be starting at power forward against the Knicks, 3,800. I really like the upside on him. He could really almost go to 30, 40 points and hit almost 10x tonight.
As a lifelong Celtics fan, I'll give you the news on Jeff Green. He's horribly inconsistent. Stay away from him at all costs. I don't care what the price is. All right, let's go to our next question here, and we'll get instant reaction from Pierce and from Jeff. This one on Twitter as well. Ace Masters 21, we've heard from you before. Thank you for coming on back to us. Thoughts on Macklemore and Koufos and fade or play DeAndre at center? Jeff, what do you think?
Oh, I got a good take for this. Play neither of those Sacramento guys. Play Skull. Sierra. I can't pronounce his name, but he's 3,500. He's been really productive. And look, he's a young guy. They're getting in the rotation there in Sacramento. They have nothing to play for. He gets 20, 25 minutes. He's cheaper than Costas. I think he's a better player. I mean, I'm going to go with him over those two guys. And DeAndre Jordan, interesting spot, definitely for tournaments. I mean, he's cheaper than Blake. Blake will be higher owned. I like Blake as a floor play better.
Pierce?
I like Ben McLemore. I feel like he's probably the closest to guaranteed minutes. I know if Lalo is coming back, you might want to look into that. It's a West Coast game, so it's kind of risky. I like Koufos. It's cheap, and they're playing Brooklyn. And then with DeAndre Jordan, I think he's too cheap. He had a huge game, and he's been really good since CP3's been back. He's going to continue to feed him. And remember, this is Houston. This is a horrible front court that gives up tons of fantasy points. He's just way too cheap. Like we mentioned before, there's a lot of great center plays. I really, really like DeAndre Jordan tonight.
All right, keep those questions coming. We will get to them, I promise. Pierce, Jeff, stand by. It is a good time for another check of the latest with Alex Jankowski in the DK Live newsroom. We've let him sit idly by for a little while here. Alex, before you tell me what's new, is new Rockets guard Lou Williams just killing James Harden right now or what? What's going on there?
Yeah, I think Jeff kind of hit it on the head there. We took a little deeper dive, did a little more of that hashtag math, and we found that you are 100% correct and that Lou Williams seems to be having an effect on James Harden. Now, we knew when they traded for Lou Williams that the other bench guys would take a hit, primarily Eric Gordon, maybe even Patrick Beverley. But we have seen that Harden is shouldering less of a load with Lou Williams. So to give it some context here, in the 6 games before the trade, Harden averaged a usage rate of 38.5%. Which is right around that MVP, kind of rate that we were expecting from him. In the 3 games since, it's dropped to 25.9%, with no game over 30%. So obviously that's still a small sample size, but it is definitely something to monitor. So now just going to some news that has been coming in. Aaron Gordon is playing, so Jeff Green will not be in the starting lineup for the Magic tonight. However, Jameer Nelson is out for the Denver Nuggets. So Emmanuel Mudiay is expected to draw the start there. Our value plays have kind of been taking a hit here. We spotlighted both Dellavedova and Ty Lawson. Well, Dellavedova has now been benched in favor of Malcolm Brogdon, and Ty Lawson is questionable with an illness. So pair that with Aaron Aflalo likely coming back, and Lawson isn't as solid of a play as we might have thought a couple hours ago. Hollis Thompson and Dante Cunningham now both starting for the Pelicans with DeMarcus Cousins out. And C.J. Watson is out tonight for the Magic. And Avery Bradley, his minutes will be going up for the Celtics, says Brad Stevens. So a couple of little nuggets there. I think the biggest one, definitely Jameer Nelson being out tonight. We'll see what Emmanuel Mudiay can do now that he is back in the starting lineup. So let's head back to the studio now where Kaufman is joined by Adam Levitan to answer even more of our readers' questions.
Thanks, Alex. Levy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. This is going to be fun. We've got mailbag questions for you, and we've got some good ones, too. We picked them out on Twitter at the DraftKings account. First question comes from Chris. Who would you start a team with at guard and center tonight?
Yeah, at guard, I think Chris Paul stands out at under 9K in a game I want to have exposure to. This Clippers-Rockets game is going to be extremely high scoring, highest total on the slate. Clippers have the highest implied team total on the slate by a wide margin. And when Chris Paul is down at 8,900 and we see them willing to extend his minutes, he played 40 last time out against Charlotte. We could see him play 34, 35 minutes here against Houston, one of the best teams in the Western Conference. And at the center spot, I think the DeMarcus Cousins suspension opens up Anthony Davis in a big way. I know he's still 10.4K, which is expensive, but when we know that without Cousins out there, it's going to be all Anthony Davis, is going to be a lot of Drew Holiday. So I think Anthony Davis at center and Chris Paul at point guard is a pretty sharp way to go.
Well, I'm glad you brought up DeMarcus Cousins and Drew Holiday because they are the featured points of our next question. Riley wants to know, without Cousins, what ownership projection do you have for Holiday?
Yeah, he's going to be very highly owned for a couple of reasons. First of all, he was 8,800 at the peak before the DeMarcus Cousins trade. Fast forward now 3 games, and Drew has really struggled since the trade, and he's down to 6,900. I think Drew can bounce back here and play well, especially at 6,900, and especially with DeMarcus Cousins out. And he has shooting guard eligibility, which is so huge. I mean, we have so many point guards that we want to play tonight. I already mentioned Chris Paul. I think Isaiah Thomas is another strong one. Kyrie Irving is another strong one. So Drew Holiday, being able to put him at the shooting guard spot could make him 40% owned, perhaps more tonight.
All right, last one from B. Madden. Hey, hopefully you can be happy after we answer this. Who gets the biggest bump from Kevin Durant's injury for the Warriors next time out? Is it Steph, Clay, Dre, someone else? What do you think?
Yeah, sucks about Kevin Durant. Really love watching him play and hate to see anybody get hurt. I think that we're going to see the Warriors kind of go back to the way it was last year. I mean, last year, Draymond Green averaged 1.23 DK points per minute. This year, he's at 1.17. Steph Curry last year, 1.54. This year, 1.32. You can just see how their DraftKings points per minute go down as Kevin Durant soaks up a lot of that usage. So I think we'll see a lot more point forward stuff from Draymond. We'll see a lot more shot attempts for Steph Curry. I think those are the main guys that will benefit. And you could, make a case for Andre Iguodala. You could probably make a case for Sean Livingston, too, picking up some of the slack. But I think the main guys will be Draymond and Steph.
Adam Levitan, thanks very much, man. Great stuff.
All right. Good luck tonight.
Thanks, Alex. Levy, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing well. How are you?
Good. This is going to... All right. Thanks again to Levy. Welcome to anyone just tuning in. Don't worry, we're figuring it out too. Thanks to those of you who have hung with us tonight on Pre-Lock Live. We're here to help you set your lineups. Leave your questions on Twitter with the hashtag DKTV or in the comment section of your video player as well. I want to bring back Pierce and Jeff for a look at the slate. You can see the full slate on your screen here coming up in a second, but if there's one game that you're going to be targeting, fellas, among all of the 11 tonight, and of course a good one for fantasy plays, which is it? Either one. Jeff.
No, see, you put me on the spot here. Now I got to decide right off the bat. I mean, there is a lot. So, I mean, Houston and the LA Clippers make a lot of sense. I mean, I think at least on the Clippers, there's a lot of plays from that game you like to target. I got to be honest, though, I kind of agree with Pierce off the bat. The easiest game to target DFS-wise might be the Knicks and the Magic.
Pierce, you right there?
Yeah, I mean, you look through the slate and you'll see, one side that you like, and then you look at the other side and you're not that crazy about anybody. It's really hard. I mean, with Houston spreading it out so much anymore, I like a lot of the Clippers, but then I want to take somebody in Houston if I want to match it up. I just can't find the people that I love. So it might be New York and Orlando. That's crazy.
So on the flip side of that, how about a game that you really don't like, Pierce? One that you are just, maybe you're, entertained from a basketball perspective, but DFS, screw it. Let's stay away from that one.
Oh, well, I mean, it's the traditional response. Wherever Utah's playing on a big slate, you just stay away. And wherever San Antonio is playing, you just stay away. Nothing really changes there. San Antonio, Indiana, don't need it. Minnesota, Sacramento, don't need it.
Same for you, Jeff?
Minnesota, Utah, not Minnesota, Sacramento. I'm sorry.
Sure. Jeff, same for you?
Yeah, I mean, there's not much appeal to those games at all. I mean, there might be a play or two you can look at. Trying to think if there's anyone on San Antonio I had projected, but no, I didn't. So, I mean, the other game that doesn't carry much appeal off the hop is Atlanta-Dallas for sure. It's got a really low game total. That being said, there are players on Dallas who are quite interesting tonight. Steph Curry and Harrison Barnes, 6K. Should get some pretty good usage. So there's some plays in that game at least. It's just not very appealing, like pace-wise or point-wise.
All right, keep those questions coming with the hashtag DKTV on Twitter, of course, in the comments section of your video player as well. You want to know more about individual games, players, matchups, whatever it may be. Speaking of matchups, actually, why don't we do our third spotlight, and that is player matchups. This is a good one. It's always a good one because it is based upon who has the best matchup tonight. Julian Edlow with his cheat sheet often writes about that in the DK Playbook. You can check it out. Digs deep into the research to find out which guys could really shine based on who they're going to face. Joker, Irving, Whiteside, Ibaka, Curry, and that is Seth Curry, by the way, not Steph Curry. Let's highlight these guys, really think about what you have to consider. A couple of guys on fire, a couple of great matchups. Really, everyone could have that thumbs up, a good minutes note with Ibaka. But the first guy, Nick Jokic, $8,800. Bucks extremely thin defensively in their front court, have allowed the most DK fantasy points to opposing centers over the last 10 games. Joker with a triple-double last night against a tough Bulls squad, so obviously the back-to-back factor for him. Irving, 8,700. Isaiah Thomas, known for many things, defense, not one of them. And it's not in IT's defense because he's not trying. He's just too damn short and he can't do it. Irving averaging 28 points, 9 assists, 5 rebounds against Boston this year. Hassan Whiteside, our featured guy, we'll get back to him in just a second. Serge Ibaka, one of the newer Raptors, 6,500. Struggled from the floor last game, only hitting 5 of 14 shots. The Wizards' 4th worst in the league against power forwards. I know I like that one. Seth Curry, Dallas, 5,900. No Wesley Matthews tonight. Curry's going to see even more run against a Hawks team that is bottom half of the league against shooting guards. He has shot 61% from 3 over the last 3 games. Now, he's not his brother, we all know that, but even still, he's put up numbers lately. As for Whiteside, $8,300. In all 3 games Whiteside has played against the Sixers this year, he has at least had to deal with Nerlens Noel or Joel Embiid down low. Well, not anymore. Both those guys gone. Noel traded away, Embiid done for the rest of the year. He has a double-double in 8 of 10 games, averaging 7.1 more DK fantasy points per game at home this year. So the numbers just continue to pile up in Hassan Whiteside's favor. Pierce, what do you think? Whiteside, the good guy, the good play of that list, or maybe you're looking a different way?
No, I mean, Whiteside's underpriced. I think he's an awesome play tonight. You want to target Jahlil Okafor. I think he's 69th in DRPM for centers. He's one of the worst defensive centers out there. He shouldn't have any problem. We like targeting the Sixers front court right now big time. I think Whiteside 45 fantasy points in 4 of the last 5. This one's he could go up to 60, 50 points at his price. That's a great return on value. I love it. Also, I would look at John Wall as a good matchup against Corey Joseph, not good at playing defense. And then Chris Paul against Houston. I know people worry about Patrick Beverley, but Chris Paul has scored big-time points on them in the past. And I don't know if Patrick Beverley is 100%. He shouldn't really have a problem piling up points.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I pretty much like all those plays Pierce just threw out too. But honestly, this is what I was talking about with not having to roster Anthony Davis. Look, you could start out a lineup with all 5 of these players and still have a pretty nice average salary left. And I love all these plays pretty much. I mean, Jokic at 8,800 against Milwaukee. Are you kidding me? That's an awesome price. He was over 10K like a week ago. Hassan Whiteside, who went off against Dallas, by the way, pat on back to me. The only guy who wanted to take him. He's only 300 more, and he's in a way better match. He scored 61 points in 27 minutes last time he played Philly. So Serge Ibaka, I like for a bounce-back game. Washington, really bad against the power forward. Look, he still scored 22 fantasy points. He had pretty much the worst game possible. He still scored 22 fantasy points. So he's got to do better tonight. And then Seth Curry I already talked about. So I love all these guys. This is like the start of a lineup for me.
Fellas, think bar mentality. You don't have to be so cordial with one another, waiting for me to call on you. When one stops, the other one can start. I feel like I'm leading the classroom here.
Those are all – I mean, those are really solid matchup plays. There's a lot of good matchups tonight at really good prices. And you could really – I mean, we did building blocks earlier, but those could technically be your building blocks, like Jeff said.
Kaufman, we're just trying to keep you employed, man. I mean –
You're keeping me busy, that's for sure. We've got a few viewer questions that are also trying to help me stay employed and make sure that we've got this show to keep everyone entertained a few days a week as well, leading up to the lock. And hey, baseball's right around the corner as well, a month away. First question, Nate Works. I know you. DKTV. Good idea to stack the Clippers' big 3 as a building block. What do you think, Jeff?
I'd probably go with 2 and just make a decision between Jordan and Blake over rather than rostering all 3 of them. I think DeAndre Jordan for tournaments over Blake Griffin is really interesting. Pierce mentioned he's in a good spot. Could definitely, if you go off, you're going to get a lot of leverage on the field because Blake Griffin's going to be higher owned. So I'd probably prefer going with 2 of them. 3 of them, it could definitely work out, but it's probably higher risk.
Pierce?
Yeah. I think it is kind of crazy to roster all 3, but if you really think about it, CP3 is going to be fine. DeAndre Jordan's in a great spot. And then if you look at Blake Griffin, who's he going to be guarded by? Ryan Anderson? He should destroy them. We've got a huge line on this one. I have no problem taking all 3.
I hear Ryan Anderson. I always think back to Nick Anderson, just remembering the glory days of the Magic until his career went to crap when he missed those free throws. But, okay, next question. Again, we've got some of these. DKTV is the hashtag on Twitter or the comment section on YouTube right there as well. Clearly, they'll get to us. What about Marcus Morris tonight? That is a guy we're going to talk quite a bit about a little bit later on, but we can get into a bit of a spoiler with that conversation now. That's just fine. Pierce, how do you like him tonight?
I mean, it's not a bad matchup against New Orleans, but he played 42 minutes last night, and now he's playing on the road, 6,000. I know he had a huge game. I don't think I like it.
Jeff?
Yeah, same answer, same story. Like Marcus Morris, the matchup isn't bad. You just worry about the minutes in the back-to-back. I mean, he played so much last night. The one nice thing about Detroit is they do play their starters quite a bit. So you could just see another big game. Just be aware that, it is that back-to-back factor. Players tend to drop off a little bit. So you're taking a bit of risk there.
All right, more questions coming up in a little bit. Celtics home tonight to host the defending champs. And Al Horford has been really bad lately, at least statistically, and our guys have been tracking it. Alex Jankowski in the DK Live newsroom. Alex, just how bad has it been for Al Horford lately?
Pretty bad in a couple words, quick answer. But yeah, so he was the big offseason acquisition that was supposed to kind of vault the Celtics into being the main contender to end Cleveland's reign atop the East. Now, Boston still has been able, obviously, to hold that second seed in the East, but there's no denying that Al Horford hasn't been pulling his weight, especially of late. He has started every single game this season and has played an average of close to 33 minutes in them, but he has only surpassed 30 DK points once in his last 9 games, including 2 games where he failed to even hit 17 DK points. His price has dropped $1,600 during that stretch down to where it currently is at $5,600. But things don't get much easier tonight against the Cleveland team that ranks second against opposing centers. So to me, he's about as close to a must fade as it gets. Cleaning up just some other news nuggets that we've been getting in these past couple minutes here. Chris Middleton will not start for the Bucks tonight, but Jason Kidd also said he will play 30 minutes off the bench. So thanks for that, Jason Kidd. It's kind of the Kidd special right there. And I said earlier I thought Emmanuel Mudiay would be starting for Jameer Nelson. Jamal Murray at 3,800 will be the starting point guard tonight for the Nuggets. So definitely a possible value target there.
I'll give you something else, too, on Al Horford that I looked up earlier because I just found it interesting. 4 straight games for him, he hasn't cracked double-digit points, okay? Points. Regular points, not fantasy points. He has not had 10 points in 4 straight games. I got to thinking, when's the last time that's happened? Because Al Horford, if nothing else, he's not a superstar, but he is generally consistent. 2009 postseason, 6 straight games without cracking double-digit points. So, I mean, this is a run that he's in the middle of right now, hopefully nearing an end of tonight against Cleveland that he has not experienced in about a decade, Alex.
Yeah, well, we talked about, at the trade deadline, Boston bringing in a rebounder, somebody to take some of the scoring load off of Isaiah Thomas, and you looked around and it's kind of, well, isn't that why Al Horford came in? What exactly were they, having it planned for him when they brought him in? Because certainly it's not this.
Well, in defense of that, and Alex, I appreciate it. We'll bring back the guys for Chase Fade in just a second. Al Horford, again, all-star, very good, not great, not a superstar, not a rebounder. Really hasn't been much of a rebounder in his career, certainly not the last couple of years. He's basically a 15-7 guy that was acquired to, lift the defense, space the floor, all that. He wasn't brought in to clean up the boards, and yes, the Celtics should have addressed that at the trade deadline, as we talked about on Trade Deadline Live when we did that just a few days back. But all right, let's go to our next Chase Fade. These guys are even at 1. They're going to make their arguments. I get to pick the winner. Hopefully they won't tie here. I'm not going to lean toward a tie. That's not what I want to see. I want a winner, not this everybody gets a trophy BS that we experience in this day and age today. Serge Ibaka will have a bounce-back game against the Wizards. Jeff?
Yeah, I already talked about it. I like this as a bounce-back spot for Serge Ibaka. Kyle Lowry's still out. His usage is still going to be really, really high, and the Wizards aren't good against the power forward position. They're one of the bottom 5 or 8 teams against that position. So he still scored 22 points, even in a bad game. I think he's definitely going to bounce back here. I like him for a big night.
Pierce?
I'm going to fade it. I know he's in a good spot, and his usage should go up, but you got to look at his point guard. It's Corey Joseph. It's not really a guy that's going to be able to feed him as much. Typically, Serge Ibaka needs a good point guard to get him the ball, to get him points. I don't see that happening. I don't really like him.
All right, I'm going to lean toward Jeff there. He's just got a great matchup on the other side. He should be able to respond to put up some points. But, what I love about these Chase Fates, especially having to pick between these guys, is we get to find out later on in the evening, tomorrow morning, whenever you decide to check it, who ultimately was right. And these guys can boast about it a little bit later on. All right, so Pierce, you get to try and save your bacon here. Last one. Terrence Ross, $5,200. Malcolm Brogdon, again, starting tonight. That has come in for Chris Middleton. Who knows what the minutes will be, but he's starting. $5,000. Who will you chase? Who will you fade? Who's the better buy? That's basically how we're wording this thing. Pierce.
Well, I'm glad I get to go first because of the breaking news. You fade Ross because Aaron Gordon's in the lineup, and you chase Brogdon because they already said Dellavedova is going to be on the bench, and Middleton might get 30 minutes, but he's going to be on the bench. I know it's hard to trust Jason Kidd, but it looks like Brogdon is the future. Might as well give him some run.
Jeff, you pretty much didn't have a chance, but you want to try?
No, I mean, I was going to chase Terrence Ross before the news. I don't think Aaron Gordon playing changes that much, to be honest. Magic don't have many playmakers. Terrence Ross is a really talented guy who's always second fiddle to Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, but I really like him with the Magic, and he's playing the Knicks. He has a really, really good matchup, so don't forget about that. I like Terrence Ross.
All right, 2-2. I think that's pretty evident here. I like him is not going to be a compelling enough argument for me, Jeff. All right, let's go back to Alex. I know we just talked to him. We're going to head back out to the DK Live newsroom, find out what is the latest that's going on, and also bargain bin. We talk value. Alex likes to sift around the bargain bin like those DVDs that you may find for $1 sitting around during holiday sales. What are you finding?
Yeah, so now's around the time where you're looking to kind of round out your roster, tinker a little bit. You already know who your must-plays are, your building blocks, the top value guys that you're looking at. But what if you want to try and fit Harden and DeRozan in your lineup, or Giannis and John Wall? To do that, you need value, and I'm not talking about an okay player in a pretty good matchup. I'm talking about cellar dweller, bottom of the barrel value. And that's why we've launched the bargain bin column on DK Playbook, where Zach Thompson's only looking at guys with 4K or lower salary. We kind of call it 4 in play at under 4K. There are obviously red flags with all of these guys because they're priced so low. But Zach identified a number who could help put you over the top in those big GPP tournament games. So here, let's take a look at kind of the 4 that he had said. Ben McLemore at 3,900. There's value abound in tonight's Kings-Nets game. McLemore averaging 26 minutes in the last 3 games. Ty Lawson may be out. Could help him there. Also, the Kings, Kosta Koufos, 3,900. Willie Cauley-Stein seems to be more part of the future for the Kings than Kosta Koufos. However, Koufos is bringing similar production at a much lower price tag right now. At least 6 points and 6 boards in every game since the All-Star break. Gerald Henderson for the Sixers at 3,900. He is their starting shooting guard after all, playing at least 25 minutes in each of his last 6. He also had 26 DK points on Monday. Pretty good for a 3,900 guy. Last we go all the way, stone minimum, Stanley Johnson, 3K for the Pistons, who are on a back-to-back, which usually kind of leads to some extra minutes for guys off the bench. He played 28 of those minutes last night, had 21 DK points with 6 points and 7 boards, and it is a plus matchup against the Pelicans tonight. So those are kind of those bargain bin guys that we're looking at to kind of help you round out your lineup if you want to go a little stars and scrubs tonight.
What's the crappiest DVD you've ever purchased in one of those bins?
Corky Romano.
that is an excellent answer. Chris Kattan doesn't. That's the first time he's ever been mentioned on this show. So good. Shout out to Chris Kattan tonight. All right, we'll check back in with Alex for some more coming up in a bit. But first, viewer questions. I know we've got a couple more of these for the guys, Jeff and Pierce. Let's see this first one here. Find out what direction we're heading in before our final spotlight. The He's on Fire from Deshaun Green. Vucevic or Kyle O'Quinn? What do we think, Jeff?
Can you say that again, Adam?
Vucevic or O'Quinn tonight?
O'Quinn. It's pretty simple. Don't overthink Kyle O'Quinn. I know Pierce doesn't like him, but he really is really productive. The Knicks just don't have that many bodies. He's going to get 25-plus minutes.
Pierce?
Oh, I'm going to go with Vuk. We've already talked about the Knicks front court. Not very good to begin with. They're going to be shorthanded. Vucevic, 40 fantasy points in 5 of his last 7 games. I liked it a little more when Aaron Gordon wasn't going to play. He might get his usage cut down a little bit. You got to pay up more. I'm going to go with Vuk.
All right, let's do the next one here. See what we've got. Again, the hashtag DKTV on Twitter to hit us up. Ace Masters, good to hear from you. Chase or fade back-to-back teams with high over-under totals, I believe is where we're going with this. Pierce, since we're on you, what do you think?
Well, let me see who we got on the back-to-back. Denver would be one of them, right? I don't have any problem taking people from Denver. Detroit, what we got the over-under on that game? Detroit versus New Orleans. I don't really like Detroit. Is that what we're talking about here? Did I answer the question?
Yeah, more or less. Jeff, you had the stall time. What do you think?
Yeah, I usually don't go out of my way to take guys on back-to-backs, but like Pierce said, I mean, I don't really have a problem taking a player from Denver tonight, just because of that. I mean, if it's a high point total, it's a good game, you can definitely target it. And sometimes in those games, you want to look at the reserve or the guys coming off the bench a little bit harder as well and just see who got the big minutes the night before, because often that can play into the rotation. I wouldn't be worried about taking a guy like Jokic tonight, though. He only played 33 minutes. He's a young guy. It's a really good matchup. Just play him if you want to, and don't worry about
Mills
it.
is play though, right? 30.
All right, good notes there. Tony Quad, by the way, ruled out with a quad injury for San Antonio. Also, Tony Parker. I don't know what did I say. Tony Quad. Tony Quad, a guy.
Hoffman.
Tony Parker. I was reading Quad at the same time. Tony Parker is not playing. Also, Tim Duncan is out tonight. Retirement. That's an issue for San Antonio as well. Let's do our final spotlight. That is the He's on Fire, which pretty self-explanatory. Guys that have been scorching hot the last handful, 10 games, something like that our guys have been studying. This is going to look pretty familiar to the last time we talked because, again, they're still on fire. That's okay. You can see Saric, Covington, Wiggins, Morris. Love Willie Cauley-Stein. Big fan of that guy. So let's talk about some of these guys. And, they all are deserving of the basketball and the Flame logo. Saric, 7,700. Still a guy to keep an eye on. His price has only gone up $100 after an almost 42-point performance, and that's fantasy points on Monday. 7th straight game of at least 38 for him. We'll get more into Cauley-Stein coming up in just a second. Our featured guy, Covington, 7,500. He's taken 44 shots over the last 3 games. Made half of them to go along with just 10 rebounds per contest. As for Wiggins, 7,400. Doesn't get a ton of peripheral stats, but still the league's leading scorer over the last 5 games. Does have a tough matchup at Utah, however. Morris, we've touched on already a bit. $6,000 monster game last night. About 5,800 DK fantasy points in 42 minutes in a win over Portland. On paper, Pelicans play well against forwards, but no DeMarcus Cousins, and Morris' salary has only gone up $100. Well, let's circle back to Willie Cauley-Stein, who, as I mentioned, I love this guy. I love that he has an opportunity, a real opportunity with Cousins gone, and he's putting up numbers. $5,500 value as far as I'm concerned. Rebounded from a dud last week, 31 DK fantasy points against the Timberwolves Monday, and now gets to face the hapless Nets. So, Willie Cauley-Stein, Jeff, you buying in on this guy?
No, absolutely. I mean, it's just the spot too, right? He's playing the Brooklyn Nets, like you said, Adam. So if you're looking for a guy to get off of Kyle O'Quinn, or if you just don't like Kyle O'Quinn like Pierce, then Willie Cauley-Stein's probably your guy. I mean, he's only $300 more. So I really like him tonight for sure. Brooklyn can't guard anything. So Sacramento's implied team total here is actually really good. We should probably have been talking about the Sacramento Kings a little bit more today, because their projected team total is 10 points above their season average. So it's a really good spot for Willie Cauley-Stein for sure. Other players on that list, we talked about fading the Philly guys tonight. I'm on board with that. Andrew Wiggins, I know it's Utah, but every time I say Andrew Wiggins is kind of like so-so, he just keeps producing. So I don't know what to say about Andrew Wiggins anymore, but he's playing really, really well.
All right, so for Pierce, it's Davis. For you, it's Wiggins. Pierce, what do you think about Cauley-Stein?
If you're making me pick, I would rather spend a lot less on Costa Koufos. I don't really want to go with Willie Cauley-Stein in this situation. Tell you what, here's someone in that same game that's getting overlooked. I haven't overlooked him, and then I kind of noticed that, wow, how about that? Spencer Dinwiddie, 3,800. I know people don't like playing him, but if you look at his last 5 games, he's at 6x, 13x, 8x, 5x, 6x. He's getting minutes, and not a tough matchup here. He could easily get you 25, 30 points in this game at 3,800. I don't think a lot of people are talking about it.
Everything but the triple X. Good news for the rest of us. When's Tony Quad going to find his way onto that list? That's what I want to know. When is he going to be on fire? All All right, we've got about 5 more minutes before the lineup lock. Get your questions in with the hashtag DKTV. And if we get to any more questions, if we have time, we will do so, I promise. But in the meantime, and this is for all of you guys, Alex, Pierce, and Jeff, just want to have kind of a big picture conversation about Kevin Durant and the Warriors. I know Golden State is not playing tonight. They will tomorrow. Who gets Durant's minutes? I mean, we're talking about 34 minutes out of that lineup that is gone. Who gets the minutes? Where's the production come from? Pierce, start us off.
Well, it doesn't really matter who takes his minutes. They're just going to spread the production out between Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green. I think they signed Matt Barnes, so he'll step in there and pretty much do nothing. So it doesn't really matter where his minutes go.
Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, in a more elegant way than Pierce say it. For daily fantasy, it's probably not going to be that big a deal. Like, people are probably going to be looking, like Patrick McCaw, Matt Barnes, who's going to be the play there. Klay Thompson and Steph Curry are just going to be better plays, and they're just going to score more. And Draymond Green is going to play a little bit more. So for daily fantasy, I don't really think it's going to be like this whole value play guy is going to step up. I think it's just you're going to see Steph be a lot more effective. You're going to see Klay Thompson be a lot more effective too.
Alex, let's kick it to you quickly here. Steph Curry, I mean, can he return to his MVP form, do you think, without Kevin Durant? Because obviously and understandably, I mean, it's Durant's averaging 25 points a game this year. Curry's numbers down 6-7 points per game compared to last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, we saw it last year that he's more than capable of, playing at such a high caliber as he did, back-to-back MVPs. However, we just saw a couple of games ago, he set an NBA record 0 for 11 from three-pointers. So, it's kind of one of those things where, you expect it. Obviously, I think out of him, Klay, and Draymond Green, he would be the one that benefits, who would take on, the greater scoring load. But I'm also looking at, obviously, Patrick McCaw will be starting, but Andre Iguodala will continue to be in kind of that off-the-bench role. So I think he'll be kind of on the floor a little bit more. I think Durant, is a good defender, both on the perimeter and kind of down low. And they like to have him and Klay Thompson both kind of out there against those top guys. But, maybe Iguodala is going to see now more minutes since he also has that defensive prowess.
All right, boys, we've got about 90 seconds to work with.
Sorry to cut you off there, Kaufman.
Sure.
Getting a little bit of breaking news here. Rodney Hood is out for the Utah Jazz tonight. So if you had Rodney Hood in your lineup, you got 2 minutes to take him out.
All right, that's an important nugget there. Alex, thank you for that. Thank you very much for everything you've done throughout the show. But we will rifle through some questions here in the last minute, 90 seconds. So, guys, rapid fire with these. Let's take a look at the first one for Jeff and Pierce. And again, let's move through these as quickly as possible. From Nade Works, have $5K left for a power forward, Trevor Booker or Rondé Hollis Jefferson? Pierce.
I'll take Trevor Booker. I wish he'd get more minutes, but he's been a point-per-minute guy.
Jeff?
I'll stay with Booker too. Rondé Hollis Jefferson has been really productive, but I think Booker's in a better spot tonight.
Next question. What do we have? Here we go. Courtney Lee, plain and simple. Yes? No? Jeff?
No with Kristaps back in.
Yes, for me. He's still going to play a lot.
Jeez, I tell you to talk, you don't talk. I tell on somebody else, you go. All right, next one, last one. Let's get a look at it. I think we've got one more question before we lock here, which is momentarily, I don't even know if I have time to read the question. Can we get a listener league going once a week like Adam Levitan was doing for football?
He
let's
does
get
have a basketball tournament. Him and the Smiths do. Check out the podcast.
There you go. I like the cross promotion. Bold pick. Anyone? Jeff?
Anthony Davis.
Plus
Serge 70 points.
Serge Ibaka scores over 40 fantasy points.
I can't believe I'm supposed to believe that Anthony Davis is a bold pick. Thank you
Plus
to both
70,
of you.
Plus 70 points.
All right. There's a bold pick. Thanks to Pierce, thanks to Jeff, thanks to Alex. A lot of good information, Levitan as well, throughout the last hour. I can safely say for the very first time the show actually flew by, which is only a positive for the rest of us and for you going forward. We're going to do this again, Pre-Lock Live coming up Friday night, another fun slate. But first off, good luck with your lineups tonight. I'm Kaufman. Talk to you soon.